Nothing like a good viral LinkedIn tagline.
What's up, Claymakers? I'm Peter. I'm the new social media guy at Clay, and we're starting a podcast. The first guest is Jordan Crawford. If you've been on the GTM side of LinkedIn, you've definitely seen his videos. He's the founder of Blueprint, an agency that helps B2Bs with bespoke TAM data. He's super sharp at B2B messaging, campaign strategy, and TAM scoring. His approach is customer-centric. He starts with buying behaviors and buyer insights. We talked about signal versus intent-based selling. We also touched a lot on the future of go-to-market versus today, yesteryear. And then, of course, we had to hit on AI, where to use it in your stack, where not to use it. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with Jordan Crawford.
Jordan, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I love your energy, and I'm excited to do so many of these videos. I am a GTM newbie. I'm like a sales newbie, so a lot of these are going to be silly newbie questions, but hopefully, everyone can kind of learn something on the way there. Yeah, I just wanted to start really big from the basics of, like, what does GTM look like today versus yesteryear? Because a lot of what I'm hearing, what I'm reading is that, like, hey, it's changed a lot. There's a lot of new tech. Some people are saying it's dead. What does that mean?
If you go on LinkedIn, every 2 weeks, something has died. It doesn't matter what it is. There's some concept that was alive 2 weeks ago that is dead today. So don't believe all you hear.
Okay. So how would you describe building a GTM motion to, like, a new client, to someone that needs advisory in that space? How do you think about GTM?
Well, let's start with where we're coming from and where most leaders think about go-to-market today. And really, when I say today, it is in this world that is sort of pre-Clay. The world is sort of waking up to what Clay can do, but it is a world of going to a tool like Apollo or Ocean and downloading a list of companies between 50 to 100 in North America with this industry, and then sending out usually an outreach or a sales loft sequence. These are just sequencing tools to send a lot of emails at scale. Yeah. And maybe you do things like you personalize the name. Maybe you add a couple. This is true. This is what most people are doing today. And it's this really high volume game. It's generally on your main email domain. So there's not sort of a multi-domain strategy, which is just like all that stuff gets sidelined. But really the key thing that is missing is there is no great TAM orchestration, total addressable market. So how do you identify the real companies that actually need you? And it's not the companies that are in the United States, B2B SaaS, that have a VP of marketing, right? Those days have come and gone. Okay. And really, the world that we are moving into is, what is the unique insight that you have about your customer that can be codified with data and then scaled with Clay? And that's kind of where this motion is moving into. And if you can score accounts with a lot of nuance, and what that means, for example, I had a customer come to me and they said, Jordan, we target chief customer officers that think of themselves as thought leaders. Now, you can't get that list from anywhere, right? It's like, but you can build that list with Clay. And that means that comes with an opinion. And that opinion is, these are thought leaders. And thought leaders think about themselves and their position in the company in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And that type of targeting, so it starts the insight from a customer buying behavior. That level of targeting also gives you messaging for free. And it doesn't have to be about personalization, etc. It's about, hey, Peter, you are a thought leader in customer success. I've seen you talk about this role in a different way than I've seen other leaders talk about, which means that you probably also are thinking about how generative AI can be used in your market because you talk about it, right? And that's something that the SDRs used to do, right? They would go and mess around on LinkedIn and find something, and then the best ones would find that and do that thing over and over again. And so they'd spend a lot of their time doing manual research and then sending one message. Now, the best ones figured it out, and they just would do that over and over again, and they became really good at doing rote things. But if you can pull these two things apart, which you can with Clay, the insight from the process to deliver that insight at scale, suddenly you can leapfrog this world of, hi, Jordan, I saw you went to the University of Missouri. I went to the University of Missouri. buy my SaaS garbage, which is kind of how most of this messaging goes today.
Yeah.
Now they'll say it in nicer ways.
Right.
Yeah.
So that actually leads well into, you posted on LinkedIn recently about how lead scoring and account scoring is 70% art and 30% science.
Oh, yeah.
And I resonate a lot with that because part of what drew me to Clay is that I think we're betting on the human creativity side of things. It's not just sales, it's not just go to market. I feel like technology generally gets commodified over time across all industries. And then you got to play the catch up game of like, okay, what's the new way to stand out? So with the 70-30 in your mind, like how do you automate? How do you scale the art? And how do you systemize the science? And what is the science?
Yeah, well, you said something really interesting, which is the insight, actually. And so the real key thing is to take the insight and to systematize the insight. And people miss this, right? You talk about things being commoditized, right? Mm-hmm. So this and most sales plays are commodities because they rely on the signal, not the insight. And that is, you just raise money. I like money. Can I have your money? That's like seriously. These are plays that they run, right? It's like they look for someone to raise money. They will send a message. You just got a bunch of money. I like money. You probably want to give me your money. Here's why you should give me your money, right? That is that works the first time where you're like, yes, I do have a lot of money and I need to deploy it. But the second and the third time, there is no insight, so it's not anchored. And if you look at, for example, one of the only repeatable plays in B2B sales where that doesn't necessarily involve the creativity is, or as much creativity, is looking at job changers. So you bought Clay at your last job. You have moved to a new job. You already trust. So I can't, if I work at a Clay competitor, I can't exploit that because I'm tracking the trust. Mm-hmm. And most plays are not that way. They are, I took this exact same thing and I can replicate it across multiple companies. That's why when you see a lot of these companies that are selling signals-based outreach, it's a terrible idea because the more you sell it, the worse it works. Because if you say, hey, you're hiring SDRs, go after someone that's hiring SDRs, there is no insight. And therefore, the easier you make it to deploy that play, the worse it works for tools for SDRs, for example.
Yeah, it's kind of a race to the bottom.
The play I was talking about is that basically a play that is really not overly used, but you could see it getting there, is find out the companies that are posting jobs for sales development reps, right? Now, generally, if you were running this play for Clay, a lot of the things that they're doing manually, Clay could help automate, right? To allow sales reps to spend more time talking to customers or leads. But if you run that play, which is to say, look at an open sales role and then send an email that says, hey, Jordan, you're hiring 8 sales reps. And reading through the job descriptions, it seems like they have to do a lot of account research and manual lead. Do you think that that's the best use of a $60,000 a year resource? So that play, if you think about it, can apply to Clay or any other sales tool. So it actually has no differentiation, but more importantly, it's not anchored on customer buying behavior. So that is to say that people get really attracted to the tinsel of growth plays.
Yeah.
It is a moth to a flame. But what they forget to do is actually go chat with their customers and look at their CRM and say, what did someone say to me that led them to make this purchase? And then that's where you anchor your creativity. And so the way that I talk about this is that running a growth play that is not based on a customer buying behavior is throwing spaghetti into the universe. It's not at a wall. If you throw it at a wall, you got a chance of something sticking, right? And so the problem with that is that you get really excited, but if it's not anchored to a reason someone bought. And I'll give you another great example of this. I had a customer come to me and they said, Jordan, we want to sell against internal retail theft. They're an AI camera company, right? They're saying we will, we can monitor what's going on the floor and alert you when there's internal retail theft, right?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, who else could sell to that? the locksmith, the security guard, like those plastic door things, those like chains that like 1,000 people can go say to that. And the security camera is actually kind of bad at that because it will tell you that the $300 left your door. Like, it's not going to go tackle the person that took the $300, right? So it doesn't allow, you're basically competing in this rich sea of competition. I said, let's chat with some of your customers and say, why exactly did they buy? And the customer said, well, I have 15 locations and I can get fined by the government anytime someone takes off their helmet. And more importantly, it's dangerous for them. And I don't want to put my workers in danger. And what your cameras did for me was they alerted me within 15 minutes anytime someone took off a helmet. So you know who else can't sell that? The locksmith. The locksmith can't say, like, I'll just run over to all your locations and tell you, right? The security guard can't say that. Those, you know, you can't, maybe you can put a little chain to the helmet or something. I don't know. But the point is that is where the art comes in. It's always to understand the customer. And the art then becomes translating that insight into the science of a clay table and then distributing that in various channels.
Got it. Thank you for the example. That like really helped it click. So signal and then insight, you said. And the signal, a lot of people that can be really commodified and is a diminishing returns over time for sure.
Yeah.
So talking about signals, and that was a really interesting example, but I know you've run some crazy, interesting plays. Can you share some of your more interesting, weird, out there plays that you've done recently?
Yeah, okay. And actually, I will tell you 2 plays. One that I didn't anchor against the customer, and I'll tell you the outcome of that. And then I'll tell you another play that is really kind of on the edge of what you can do with clay, and I had to like throw some people in here too. So let's talk about a play that I ran a while ago. And there was some market insight here. So Segment had this program, the Startups program. And the Startups program gave you, Segment's a customer development platform. So they gave you 2 free years of Segment if you had raised X amount and you were founded within Y date. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we went on Built With and we went back in time. So we said, if we look 18 months ago, what are the companies that likely qualified based on who had installed in Segment, based on what happened on their website, right? Mm-hmm. So I went back in time and I said, okay, these are the people that are about to run, their free trial is about to run out. And then I looked at their website traffic and I said, okay, great. I know based on their website traffic, and I had competitive intelligence about what Segment was charging at the time. So I could say, hey, Peter, 18 months ago, Segment gave you a gift. And that gift, it turns out today, is worth $60,000 a year. You're about to be charged for that gift. I would like to double down on that and give you 2 more years for free of my software. It's identical to Segment. It's a 1-line code change. Are you interested? And here are market comps that I can show you based on your website traffic exactly. Very exciting, right? It sounds amazing. Yeah. That drove more leads for me than my customer because they're like, Segment's amazing. I don't want to change. I'm happy to pay this $60,000. But who the hell wrote this email? Which is not a good look. You do not. I want to be in the shadows, right? So that's a case where you get really excited to invent a play, and you're creative, but you throw spaghetti into the universe, right?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about another play. So this is also kind of on the edge. Let me talk about 2 different plays. What we did is was doing some work for a ads agency, right? And for the most part, ads agencies are not really differentiated, right? Their differentiation is how they go to market and how they brand. And so I didn't even bother to learn about what made this ad agency different. I said, what's the craziest thing that I could do, right? And as a friend of mine, I'm like, let's try it. So what we did is we used Ocean to find lookalike companies and we filtered based on website traffic, and we looked at spend towards ads based on their website traffic. So if they had 500K a month in ad traffic and 25% was coming from paid ads, we knew they were doing paid ads, and we knew that they kind of had ad volume, right? Mm-hmm. Then what we did is we found their Facebook ads page. So this is open, Facebook had to make the ads library open. We won't go there.
Yeah.
So then what we did is we looked at an ad that was not a video ad, that was active. So there in that ads library, you can see like video ads that, they're playing, but Clay can't interpret video yet.
Yeah.
Like it's coming soon, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. What is this going on? So we took a screenshot of that. And then we had GPT-4 Vision just describe the ad in immense detail. What is it about the ad? What's the picture? What's the ad copy? And then we passed that to Claude. And Claude Haiku, the cheapest model, it's a tenth of a penny to ask this question, maybe 5/10 of a penny. Mm-hmm. And I said, critique this ad as a Facebook ads expert and tell me what they're doing today, why it's bad, and quantify the value that changing it would deliver. So if you think about this play, it is what an SDR that knew everything about Facebook ads would do if they had unlimited amounts of time to spend researching.
Yeah.
Right? They would go look up the ad, they would sit with an ad expert and say, like, why is this likely not to convert?
Yeah.
Well, and the model was amazing. It was like, hey, this backpack isn't set against a dynamic background, and so it doesn't have context, right? Or it would say, this call to action doesn't feature the benefit. It's just, it's features. It's not a benefit product, right? And so that's the type of workflow that, in this case, I work backward from the question. The question that I always ask is, with perfect information and unlimited time, what would the person that knows the most about your market do to send a great message? And then turn that essentially into columns and reverse into that process. Because that's the key thing, is that SDRs right out of college, they don't have the wherewithal to understanding of the market, the customers. They can't communicate that message. Now the founder can, but the founder can't scale their time. But they can if they reverse engineer the process that has worked for them at low scale and do that by dividing that into a series of columns and then programmatically deploying the message.
That's beautiful. That's a great nugget of advice. Is that where you would start if you had a new client come in? Like, do you start with the client? Do you start with kind of putting on the SDR hat and thinking about what their best SDR would do?
Well, yeah, so my business, we really focus on TAMs, the total addressable market. And then how do you take a total addressable market and build actionable list on top of that?
Okay.
And so the way that I think about building a TAM list, which really hasn't been, and Clay is one of our it was supposed to be a secret sauce, but now I'm giving it away. Clay is one of our secret tools here. But when we think about a total addressable market score, we're trying to identify what are the 3 to 6 unique insights that exist on a company that are unique to the problem that you solve. And so, for example, let's take that ads agency, right? Well, one of the things that you'd want to know is, are they running ads? It's a pretty simple question, right? And it's going to be much harder to get someone that's not running ads from 0 to 1 than it is someone that is running ads to adjust those ads. And let's just assume that your agency only helps people edit ads, not go from 0 to 1, right? It's an important criteria. The other thing you probably want to know is, what does their traffic look like? And my guess is that if you have more traffic, you're going to be maybe more likely to run ads. You have a bigger website, you have more properties, you have more content to deploy against this. You might also have a question that is what does their tracking stack look like? So if you think about on their website, do they have a Facebook pixel, the Google pixel? What is their ad dispersion, right? You might look inside of their employees and say, do they have ad people on staff, right?
Yeah.
And so any individual column isn't going to be capital T true, but it will hint at the truth. And the sum of these columns, because the data will always be spotty, the sum of these columns is going to give you a sorted list of the accounts that you should go after based on criteria that are bespoke to you. And so the first thing that I always do is, how have you built your total addressable market list? Is it employee count and location? Throw that away. It doesn't make sense, right? Because it also doesn't help you with a message at all. The data is the message.
Yeah.
The way in which you pull the data comes from the insight, and you pull the data, it gives you that insight at scale, And then you can communicate with that insight at scale.
Yeah.
And so basically we build the TAM list first, and then as they want to deploy tactical lists, then we will pull from that TAM list and pull a list of contacts today. So a perfect example of this are people that someone gave me a 126 page, it's like I'm sweating just thinking about this, 126 page PDF of names and titles, titles and companies that were going to Shop Talk.
Okay.
So it's a conference, right?
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do? Like, how do you turn that into a list of people?
Right.
Well, Clay can do that. So now I know an event they're attending, and in the ads case, I have some understanding of their propensity to buy ads.
Yeah.
So I know they're going in person, and I know what they're doing today, and now I can send them a message that talks about the thing that I've done at the TAM score, where they're going to be, and offers to meet them in person. Or I can spend a lot of money. I could say, Peter, do you like bubbly or bourbon? Because I've got a bottle for you, right?
Bourbon.
Yeah, exactly. But I know that if I give you a bourbon, that account is worth a ton of money to me. And so that is a targeting exercise. And suddenly, if you have a scored understanding of your total addressable market, you can do something way different from the top 10% of your TAM than you can for the bottom 90%. You can spend at much different levels. It allows you a level of messaging, of precision, of different campaigns that you can run that you couldn't do in any other case. Let me clarify exactly how I think about AI, because there's sort of two buckets of value that I think exists in AI. The first bucket is everything before the message, and the second bucket is the message. So let's talk about the first bucket here. Yeah. Well, that is, AI is really it's the world's smartest 12-year-old.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah, which is to say that if you tell this 12-year-old, if you give it garbage in, it will give you garbage out. And so there is this human AI interface problem, which is the model will understand. It's like the same shitty thing that you did, the model will do it 1,000 times over, right? And so there's a translation layer that you need to, like, for example, we were doing an account scoring exercise. And one of my customers came back to me and he said, Jordan, the model ranked this as a tier 2 account, but it was disqualified. Well, what I did is I had the model explain why. And in its reasoning, it says, well, it meets 4 out of the 5 criteria. But the country was like Azerbaijan or something. It's like, I will never talk to someone in Azerbaijan. Nothing against the country, just this is not a good fit for this company. And the reason is it said fit 4 out of 5 criteria. Well, it fit the other 4.
Yeah.
And so we did a bad job and the model will be rigorous. It's very, very good. So the model is exceptional for account scoring, contact scoring. It is really good at distilling a bunch of information. And those are a super valuable subset of tasks. Now let's talk about messaging. Haiku is the first model that I would trust to send a cold message. I didn't trust GPT-4. Haiku is the cheapest of the models. It's Haiku, Sonnet, Opus. Now, Haiku is 25 cents per million tokens in and $1.25 per million tokens out. It basically equates to 1/10 of the cost of GPT 3.5. Very, very cheap. And the framework that I use for copy here, it's creative, constraint with context. So creative, constraint with context. So let's actually start with the context. You have to give the AI context to say something, that is the data. That is, what's the Facebook ad, right? So the context was a description of the Facebook ad, right? That's the context. Constraint. So I didn't say, write a message to Peter in the style of Ernest Hemingway and make it sound great. There's no constraint there. That's like, go with God, right? Not very helpful. So the way in which I do constraint is, those little curly brackets you write when you put in? So I say 2 to 3 word headline, 5 to 7 words about the problem, 5 to 7 words about the solution, 3 to 4 words about a question, and then I let it be ultra creative, right? I can say tell me something about this Facebook ad that you think as a Facebook ad expert you should never do. And so creative constraint with context allows me to trust the AI to deliver a fully baked message. And if you do that, as the models get better, and I think I would also, we haven't deployed like fully, totally written AI yet, because I think I would want to run it through one additional check, but it's getting there. Like, I think that in 6 months, 8 months, that you're going to be able to run this workflow well enough to deploy message to the but the key is that AI can do what a human like really can't, and that is your that's your advantage, right? And that is the gold that has been undiscovered as of yet. If you can give it the context and you can constrain it, and those are really the hardest parts, then you can say, you can ask it a question that maybe no single human might ever be able to come up with that insight.
The constraint is the one that like aha'd for me, because I've done the Ernest Hemingway spaghetti into the universe so many times and be like, I can't use this.
You have to control it,
and because that could actually like hurt a relationship or a first impression.
Aim small, miss small, which is from The Patriot, of course, a very fantastic movie. But the smaller the email is, the better it's going to have a chance of hitting. And I think also in some cases people think about AI as this like, I don't know what to do, but AI will, which is just a terrible idea, right?
I don't know.
AI is really spectacular for reverse engineering. You can reverse engineer what a human would do and then put that through AI, and AI will reliably do that.
Well, on your point on Haiku and you know, these models getting better and better, like, what's your take on what happens to the world when like every GTM team has GPT-6 plus Haiku 7, and they're all doing this? Is that, and then customers kind of catch up to those signals?
It'll always go back to the customer insight, right? It's that you will see, because what will happen is that people will see the shiny object and they will replicate the shiny object, and customers will see through the shiny object because it doesn't match their reality. And it is that reality, it is that insight, it's that buying behavior that will be absolutely key. Now, I think that where this really is going is, how do you connect Gong with or whatever call intelligence, like customer insights that are happening in some system, with a human operator, with a human operator, with a human operator. And I have to say it because people are like, you know, it's the underpants gnomes, right? Like step 1, steal underpants. Step 2, step 3, profit, right? And that's like how a lot of people think about AI, right? And so
it's a good meme right there.
Yeah. South Park always did it best. So really, it's like you need that human operator to be like, okay, I'm seeing that, but this is the adjustment of that. And then all of the stuff that we do today of like, I spend so much time in Google Sheets, just like index and matching is like, you know, it's like me, my mom, index language. And match, and my dad. Those are my relationships in my life. So really, that type of stuff will go away, right? We're not going to be spending as much time inside of spreadsheets, but really the devil is really, really in the details. And unless it's anchored against buying behavior, I think that there will be some people that mine gold from this, like send a bunch of AI messages, and that diffusion curve will actually be across industries, which is to say that the tech industry will be, but then you get to like mining, and like there'll be 10 years before they get like AI messages, right? So companies that's
so true.
Exist in other, you know, in other segments, they'll have a longer time to implement AI tools.
Well, that makes me happy. That makes me optimistic about the future. It feels like you're saying that people with exceptional perceptiveness and insight will get the alpha, and it's not just going to be AIs talking to AIs, and then I feel like on the receiving end, I'm going to have AIs digest all my
outreach and distill it for me kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I could see an AI that's sitting in your inbox. And certainly I think that the world is moving into this AI agent world where it can follow me along and do the things that I do, right? Like log into the tools that I log in and follow some of those workflows, right? And those are not net additive to society. They're not net additive to the sales process, right? It's like we hire SDRs today to click a lot on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so really the key question is the existential question, the question that, hits you before you drink your cup of orange juice is why? What are they looking for? Why are they looking for it? How does that at all relate to customer problems? And we've lost our way in go-to-market because we had the ability to just spam our market and the first people that could spam now. And I'll tell you, there are still totally plays that are just a cut above. And most of the things that we do are just maintain deliverability. So it's like, I just do a better job of getting into the inbox. Like that's the value prop.
Yeah.
And so I think that the sort of leap above here is to have a come to Jesus moment where we say, maybe if we understood the nuances of why our customers bought, and this is the key thing, we haven't ever had a tool to ask those questions of the market and to structure companies by those nuances. So we haven't had the capability to deploy the best version of what we should have been doing in the first place.
Yeah.
Clay gives you that capability, but now the question is, will we take advantage of that and start from the first principles and ask our customers, why the hell are you here? What led you to make this purchase? Why didn't you choose our competitors? And what is the thing that 6 months later has you not wanting to cancel?
Yeah.
And those are the questions that should inform the TAM building and the list building. And that's what should inform the messaging. I don't care if AI writes it. Sometimes AI doesn't need to write it. Most times it probably doesn't. But if the insight is good, it's linked to actual buying behavior. Your peers made this decision for this reason. And all I'm trying to do is make sure that the people that get that message are 98% of them should get that message. And that's the ball game. Yeah. 98% of the people that the insight applies to get the message. And all of the difficulty right now, the reason Clay is doing so well is it makes it a lot easier to get to that 98%.
Yeah. Beautiful. You've talked about Gong today. You said haiku. Shout outs to Clay, a few of them. To the extent that you're willing to talk about your tech stack, or for any people that want to tinker in-house with their GTM, what do you think is like, from top to bottom, you got to know these names?
Sure. Well, surprisingly, you don't need a lot of tech to build a go-to-market. We almost have now the WeChat of go-to-market tools here in Clay. But that is to say, you need a really good list building tool or likely outsourcer. Because the best list, depending on what you're doing, you have to start with a good list. Even if you're doing a TAM score, right? And people think of industries as not good enough. So you need like an Ocean.io to be able to do lookalikes so that you can get a good starter list. Now, in many cases, even better than Ocean.io is going to be a industry trade list. So companies that work with, there's organizations generally that will compile these lists of like one of my clients is in the durable medical equipment industry. I didn't know that was a thing. It's like wheelchairs and crutches and masks and stuff. And so it's like, okay. And it turns out that this like data is really dirty on LinkedIn, even the lookalike list. And you call someone, it's like, hey, I see you dealing wheelchairs, and they're like, no, I don't. I hope you die, right? Like that's how most cold calls go. They're not the right person. So, and that's where the fidelity comes in. So you have to get a really great starter list, right? But then there's always going to be, and that's where having a good scraping. I mean, we will do this for you, but having a good starter list is really, really important, right? We will pull things from Google, for example, across the country. Once you have that, then the best process here is to have, account scoring is so important. The best next step is to have a person look at 50 different accounts and qualify or disqualify them and write their rules, just as if they were going to give it to an outsourcer. Then you can use Clay we will use Zenrose, which is embedded in Clay, but it's much cheaper if you buy it yourself. You can cut that out.
No, we want people to.
Yeah, so Zenrose, $99 for a million websites. Great. It's basically free. You can scrape the whole website, pass that into context model, and then give it the rules that your human developed when you were identifying. So you have your list, right? You have Clay to be able to score accounts. Now, if you want to, then let's talk about like channel deployment. So we use Smart Lead for cold email. It's great. He's amazing. And we're experimenting with HeyReach for like LinkedIn automation. I think you guys also use Log Growth Machine or something.
Yeah. We're doing a thing with them tomorrow, actually.
Yeah. So I think some LinkedIn automation is really fantastic. I've got a great, I've got a Faith Story. She's my paid ads person. She's
okay.
I don't know. You can't really buy her, I guess, but she's absolutely amazing at taking. So we'll go get personal emails from Clay and then deploy that to ads. So it's the poor man's metadata. So metadata will improve that match rate even further. But then you can deploy that list. Cold email with Smart Lead, LinkedIn. You could use HeyReach. Paid ads, you can upload the list there. And then I will use, for like direct mail, generally I will find someone that will do like handwritten letters. I got a guy in Kansas named Thad. I got a guy, I got a Thad. Thad's amazing. But he will help me deploy like trophies and stuff if I want to do more bespoke plays, right? Yeah. But that's kind of it. It's like a really good starter list. Couple of tools there: Apollo, Ocean. Ideally, you have a scraper, and then Clay for the middle part here, and some of the orchestration, and then you have your channel deployment, your Smart Leads, HeyReach. Like there really isn't too much that you need to do here, but the magic is in doing the process right. And I will say that you need an outsourcer still as part of this. You need someone to check this, and there are times where the automation just won't get you there. And so sometimes I tell the model, yes, no, or maybe. If it's maybe, I push it to a person. And so I hope that the models will get us there. And sometimes you can get around this with the ClayGent's an amazing. Everyone should use the ClayGent. But yeah, that's kind of what it looks like today.
Databases are dead. Agree or disagree? Outbound is dead. Agree or disagree?
Well, I said databases are dead.
So you agree?
Yeah. There's nothing like a good viral LinkedIn tagline. The problem with a database is the idea, well, I should say, I'm going to bifurcate my answer because nuance won't go anywhere for you. So, yeah.
I'm going to cut the nuance out.
Yeah. Nuance goes viral. Yeah. It is dead. Yeah, exactly. I should just speak like that and make your editing really difficult. So the thing about a database is for things that are hard to find on the web, great. Personal emails, cell phones, maybe work emails. But for everything else, the challenge is that if you have an AI agent that can search the web today for the 1,000, 2,000 contacts that you need today and can reliably find ground truth, the database competition is something that was scraped 3 months ago. And especially at the people level, which is changing all the time, it is a stepwise function in improvement to have a ClayGent go and search the web, gather that information. It also can gather information from multiple sources, make sense of that, and make a judgment call. So instead of buying one database that is 3 months old, you're live scraping information, you're feeding multiple public pieces of information, and then you're saying, this is what I want. call it the truth. Now, all these companies built these SEO pages and they open sourced their data. So I won't name names, but the largest database providers have created programmatic web pages of all the data you could ever need. So you can basically go tell tools, go take that website, pull it in, structure it, give me that information. It was helpful. It was a great growth idea. It was a great growth idea to build all these pages. But in doing so, they have open sourced much of their data, and you then can get it at a ridiculously cheap price. And that's kind of why the information on the web is just a better source of truth for most data that you need. And, you know, there's some caveats to that, but I think that's kind of the bifurcation. For things that are behind the firewall, that are hard to get, databases alive and well. For the things that there's public information, you don't need to rely on them to structure the world. You can use a tool like Clay to structure the world for you without any long-term commitments and at fractions of a fraction of a penny.
Jordan, this was an absolute pleasure. Where can people find you online?
Blueprint GTM is my website. I am Jordan at Blueprint GTM, and my LinkedIn is /in/Jordan Crawford. So, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to do more of these.
All right, yeah.
This was a lovely first one.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.